him going down under the water. Sometimes I wish he would stay down.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of gold down here.
A trained journalist, history expert, and combat photographer in Central America, Cork has 3 decades of treasure hunting experience that began when he was 18.
After Captain Kidd's treasure on an island off the west coast of Vietnam, it was an illegal covert operation. It was one of the darkest moments of my life. I was held for 11 months, and 7 of those I was in solitary confinement.
Welcome back to the show. Here's part 2 with my buddy Vern Adkison of Bering Sea Gold. And I hope you enjoy this end of the interview. And Vern's asked whether I'd be interviewed on his show. So we'll see what happens with that. If you want to find out about that, please like, subscribe, share, and you'll get notification of when and where that episode will occur. But right now, I'm going to be planting some more garlic, which will be available, in a year or 2? But I'm actually going to get a line going, so it's just like, once you get garlic going, you don't have to upkeep it all the time. And I'll actually start looking further into the outside of the high tunnel and doing not wild, but domesticated garlic, like Siberian. We got Siberian, we got German Hardy, got Transylvanian, Korean, of course. Got Korean garlic, it's doing pretty well. And I want to see how it'll work outside, as long as I can plant in areas that are not affected by our geese, because the geese love garlic. They like any kind of long green leaf, onions, garlic. They'll chew it all the way down. So I'll be putting it in areas that I'm pretty sure the only ones that might affect it would be the snowshoe hares. I don't know. And also, of course, fence off little areas so that they don't hit it. I know the moose won't touch it. Boy, you can hear that wind just hitting the plastic on this high tunnel. But anyway, enjoy the show with Vern. And if you're watching this, again, as I had said previously in the previous episode, I'm pushing any viewers that are still on the Treasure Quest Snake Island, the real story, asking you to move over to the channel that I'm actually dedicating all content to, which is the contemporary news, updates, observations, commentary on what's happening in the world and how it affects you, which is the Cork Graham Show, Cork's Critical Thinking Corner. It's also podcasted on iTunes and Spotify and iPod Bean. And the other one is 5 Acres and a Moose, where I go into homesteading, hunting, fishing. I haven't had any chance to go flying, so I was actually had a couple jobs. I was supposed to fly for a couple lodges this summer, but just because of the immediacy and the importance of just making sure that everything is squared away on this property in terms of builds that need to be done, I'll be doing a whole line of episodes on the new chicken house that I'm building starting actually tomorrow, and then also the pole barn that'll be going up, and the sawmill shed. Hopefully I can get that done before the first snows. If not, we'll see what we'll be doing, because I got to be cutting lumber. And what's happening with the free wood up here, because we have a major horrific, just like when I left in '91, that the spruce beetle has been hammering everything. So enjoy the show, and be sure to like, subscribe, share with your friends. As I said before, I am being censored by Discovery Channel, because Discovery Channel does not like me talking about things that affect their income, basically their advertising scale, which I don't know what it is with everybody basically moving over to YouTube, but I know there's an agreement between YouTube and Discovery Channel, so they watch out for each other. And if you've already got censorship on a variety of other stuff that I can't even talk about, and I'm going to have to start ramping up my Rumble account, which I haven't touched in, 3-4 years. And that's where I can talk about the stuff that I would like to share with you. And things like pew-pews and how you need to get squared away with how to use your pew-pew, or I like to call it ling-a-ding-dings. I'll start calling them ling-ding. You got long ling-a-ding-dings and you got short ling-a-ding-dings. I might bring out my 338-06 ling-a-ding-ding or my 45 ACP ling-a-ding-ding and show you how to use it from combat experience. So, enjoy this part 2 with Vern, and I will talk with you at the end of the show. Again, like, subscribe, share. It helps us a lot. Thank you much. Enjoy the show.
And we were gonna just cut a big chunk out of their ass. Yeah. And then one guy jumped ship and signed the contract. I was the first one they offered a contract to.
Yeah.
And I was kind of the lead dog on getting this coalition together. And then once that one guy cracked, all the rest of them cracked. And I was left out there flapping in the breeze. And then finally, they...
how long was it? Was it a 1-year contract or was it...
I think it was 3.
Whoa.
And then they came back, finally, after they actually started shooting, and they said, okay, Vern. And so I signed, and I got exactly what they had offered me in the beginning. But it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. You know, I think that wasn't next year. I think that was year 3.
Okay.
I can't remember now. It might have been I think maybe it was the next year, because that first year was like a little kiddie run at 20K, and then we were signing contracts like next year, and we put it all together. But we could have really, if we had held the line, we'd have been doing all right. But one guy cracks, and
that's how it happens. You know, someone's just not thinking ahead.
And I'm not gonna even, people that watch the show, you can take a guess on who that guy was that cracked. So it wasn't me. Yeah. But anyway, so that's how I got started with the show.
Now, what about people now? Because it's like, I was looking at flying for Bering Air because they were looking for pilots. But I told them, hey, you know, I consider myself an Alaskan, but I have my own land. I live in Alaska, and I'm not going to live in Nome. And they're pushing me, and I found out later it's because they're trying to get more people to move into Nome because they're losing people. So what's your observation right now? Are there still people running to Nome, especially with the way the currency is just, I mean, we're no longer the reserve currency of the world, and the effect is going to be it's already mind-blowing enough for those of us who are paying attention. But for those who are not paying attention, they're going to feel the full effect. They think that the cost of bread and the cost of milk and all that kind of stuff is going up now. They have no idea what it's going to be like within the next year.
Well, I don't know about Bering Air, but there's no welcome mat out in Nome for new people.
Yeah.
You can go there, and if you got skills, mechanic, welder, you can find employment.
Okay.
But as far as anybody out there waving the flag and saying, hey, come on to Nome, that's not happening.
Yeah.
There are...
but are people leaving? I mean, are they not finding the gold they thought they were going to find, and so they're leaving, or they're being replaced by an equal amount of population that's... Well, because I'm hearing that the town is shrinking.
After the first year of the show, the following year, I think it was 2012, it was like a gold rush.
Exactly.
Literally thousands of people in all these little rigs out there. People out there thought they were going to cut a fat hog in the ass and jump out there and make some easy gold. That didn't happen.
And they're gone.
So by August of that year, and they set up, the city didn't know what to do with all these people, so they set up a campground for them up by Dredge 6. They left that place in such a mess.
Yeah.
When they left, a lot of them just left their tents, everything, trash all over the damn place, and turned a lot of the locals against them as a consequence. Yeah. Steve Adell had a camp up there. He thought he was going to have a commune, a communal cooking area and all this, and that turned to shit in a hurry. Try to make a commune out of a bunch of hard-headed miners, or anybody else for that matter. Yeah. I mean, even a roommate situation, most likely, it's only going to last a few months. Yeah. Before people are people
going nuts at the place. We're not even talking about the bugs and just conditions and.
Well, it was a pretty nice campground, but by August, you could have fired a cannon through that campground and not hit anybody. They all just left. A lot of them just.
And that was all the way back in 2012.
Yeah. Wow. And so we did out. a lot of them real quick. They found out it was not that
Yeah.
easy getting
Yeah.
the gold out the bottom of that
Yeah.
ocean.
Yeah.
And so, since then, the number of small miners having those little makeshift rigs that jump out there and do it on their own
Yeah.
has been shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. And there are very damn few of them left now.
Huh.
And the city's done a lot to speed up that process by making it illegal to camp on the beach down on West Beach. People used to go down there and
Yeah.
set up little shanties. A lot of them built what we call pallet
Pallet
palaces.
homes. Yeah. Yeah.
Four
Palaces.
by four
Yeah.
palaces, and you could throw one of those up in a day and you have yourself a habitat for humanity, or throw yourself up some kind of tent.
Yeah.
A lot of people were doing that, and that was one of the things I found attractive about that city, that town when I first got there, driving down West Beach and seeing all these little shanties and these guys out there shoveling the beach sand and going out in the water with their little beach launcher dredges. I thought that was great. That was how we do it in America. You get out there, get out from in front of the friggin' television and get out there and get yourself some gold. And I thought that was great. But the show showed that scene, and a lot of the locals felt embarrassed by it. To me, I thought it was great. And people out there in the world, in the viewing audience, it intrigued the hell out of them. Nome has so much history, and so many people in this world know about Nome. And the people up there, the locals, they don't appreciate that. It's a well-respected place, well-known and well-respected. And one of the reasons it's respected is because of, the hard scrabble environment that exists up there, and the fact that the people up there, they put up with that crap. They survive. They're survivors. And then those miners that came up there, they're doing it on their own. Nobody's giving them a fucking thing. They just buy the bare minimum amount of equipment, get out there, shake, rattle, and roll, and put some goddamn gold in the sluice box. That to me is very admirable. So they went in at one point with dozers and excavators and cleaned all that out. Said it was because they were on a floodplain or some off the wall bullshit. So got rid of all them. And then one thing or another, the fleet of dredgers has been shrinking year by year by year. And now more and more big operators are coming in. But most of these big operators have never been there, and they don't know their ass from a hole in it. It's one outfit just rolled in this year with a rig. I know it costs between 3 and 4 at a minimum, million I'm talking about, and did not have the goddamn foggiest notion of what was actually happening out there. They brought all that huge, beautiful damn mud boat, we call them supply boat type rig from the Gulf of Mexico, beautiful boat with all this really high dollar equipment on it, and with a bottom crawler, but the bottom crawler was 8-inch. It's like you can't do it with an 8-inch. I could put my diver down there with an 8-inch suction hose and do better than that damn bottom crawler, because the diver can see the gold and follow it. That damn crawler cannot. You're only going to put so much material through that friggin' 8-inch hose. I learned that a long time ago when I brought that little 4-inch up there. The guy was telling me that on the company, it'll do 120 yards an hour. My ass. You put it on the bottom and Nome, it'll do maybe a little bit better than a diver. Maybe 10 yards, maybe 12 yards an hour through that 4-inch. That's if it doesn't get plugged. So anyway, this $1 million operation that came up from the Gulf of Mexico, it will not work. If they don't do something, if they came in with like an 18-inch bottom crawler, it would work. But all their gear is scaled to accommodate this 8-inch robot that they put on the bottom, this bottom crawler.
And so it's got a camera and all kind of stuff.
I see a lot of these guys come in with this really high dollar equipment, not using any local expertise. They're sitting there and dreaming about all this shit like we all do, and come up with some kind of scheme, and they put it together and come up there and they find out it does not work. So believe me, I've been down that trail a few times myself. There's a lot of shit that does not work. And but ultimately, the person that invents the best machine is going to win. And I still think bottom crawlers is the way to go. In the meantime, until I can afford a proper one, which they're expensive to do it right.
How much they cost?
Well, you got to build it.
You can't just.
No, there's none that are off the shelf that'll work that I know of.
Now, who was the guy that pioneered that? He's down in Arizona. Was it Craig or Chris or what's his name?
Well, I'd rather not mention his name. He doesn't like to.
Oh, okay.
But there's one guy up there that has been very successful. Real nice guy. He's got a bottom crawler.
Yeah.
We've been improving it every year for many, many years. Every year he makes improvements on it. And you notice he's always got a smile on his face.
Yeah.
You know.
And he doesn't spend winters there.
He's got a very pleasant personality. But he's out there under the water,
Yeah.
out of sight.
Yeah.
Nobody minds him.
And that's most of the guys that are doing successful. You don't hear about them. They're just gone.
And then, you know, they've offered him to be on the show. He doesn't want to be on the freaking show.
Why? Yeah,
why?
he'd lose money.
And then we all knew from the beginning if they put it on the show, pretty soon the regulators are going to come because the regulators cannot resist.
Yeah.
Here's something that we can regulate and we can squeeze these guys and make money out of them.
Yeah.
And so they've been squeezing the little guys, getting rid of their asses. The big operators come in, big fish eat the little fish, and eventually they'll have a few big operators that are doing the whole same, the whole damn thing, and then the government can get their clutches into those people and create a partnership.
Yeah. Now, what's the story about that American company?
But the revenue stream goes to a big part of the revenue stream goes to the government.
Yeah.
Just like when they took over marijuana and made it legal.
Yeah.
Better off when it was illegal.
Yeah.
The guys who were in there doing the business, they got to keep the profit in their pocket. Now the government puts so many goddamn controls on it. Mm-hmm. You're actually just working for the government if you're in the marijuana business.
That's how that works. Yeah. That's how
it
works.
So the same thing with mining and any other industry that you can think of, just about. Fishing industry, they squeeze out the little guys so that they got just a few people that they can control and squeeze money out of.
Now, you were talking about the people who were independents and they were out on the West Beach. What happened when it's funny, it's called the American Company, right? Or the American Gold Company, but it's actually a Russian company, and they bought all that area, or they own all that area
those
to the west?
Guys are gone.
They're gone too?
They
That's funny. Because they were like coming in and wiping people out and pushing them off the beach.
No, not really. They didn't fuck with anybody much. Alaska Gold, I think it was called.
Alaska Gold? Huh, okay.
And then, they had a bunch of Russian oligarchs over there.
Yeah.
But they didn't really mess with anybody much.
Huh.
And
they're gone now too.
Yeah,
they folded.
They sold it to some other people, and some other people own it now, and they're still trying to get some gold out. But there's a lot of gold there, but it's covered with like 80, 90 feet of overburden. It's really hard to get down that deep. But once you get down that deep, down to bedrock, the gold is heavy. But goddamn it, just costs so much.
That's a lot of freaking.
You got to do a lot of blasting.
It's crazy.
So they pretty much wore out all their equipment, all these big earth moving machines and whatnot, and then this other.
Now they were in the water, or they were on dry land when they were doing?
They were on dry land.
They were, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Wow.
So it's the land mining operation is still an entity, but to the best of my knowledge, they're not really doing anything much right now. I think it's up for sale again.
Huh.
But they also, that same company has an offshore, we'll call it a division. Mm-hmm. Might be a separate company, but it's the same people that do some offshore stuff. They have some offshore leases and whatnot. So I kind of ran out of steam. I forgot what we were talking about now.
No, we're just talking about how Nome has changed. And
now here's the thing. Here's the thing. They don't want new people there because there's no housing. You cannot find a place to live up there. Yeah. It's so damn expensive to find a place to live. If you
or to put something there.
Find one.
Yeah.
And now you can't camp out on the beach.
Yeah.
Very hard to even find a place to throw down a tent. Wow. And so the locals, they don't like new people coming in there because it just drives up the prices on everything. Yeah. And it's so expensive. Gasoline and diesel. Last time I checked, I was just up there a month ago. 2 weeks ago, I think I left out there. And diesel was like 7 something, and gasoline was. And somebody told me last night on the phone that it was like $8. I think he said it'll be $10. Before too long.
Oh yeah.
And I think going back for years, I saw either Obama or shit for brains. What's that clown's name?
Biden.
The idiot
the puppet
in charge.
Yeah.
Talking about
imposter in
how
chief.
we need to do away with fossil
Yeah.
fuels, and the number $10 a gallon came
Yeah.
up in the conversation.
Yeah.
I don't remember where I heard this, and it was some years ago. But I think that's their target price.
Yeah.
That's what they want.
Yeah.
Get it up to $10. I'll squeeze people over
Yeah.
to electric, even though it's not a viable technology because the infrastructure, the grid won't support all those electric vehicles. It's just another bullshit scheme that.
Well, they use generators. They use gas-powered generators in order to charge these things up.
Yeah.
And the amount of energy it takes, they were talking, was it, somebody had made a comment, that they're using like 12 watts or something like that in relation to what a house normally uses, which is 1.8. And that was just a for one charge on these vehicles.
Yeah,
And they're selling it to people, and people think they're helping anything.
If you had a cul-de-sac, one block long with a cul-de-sac, and all those people went with electric cars, it would blow the circuits. You could not do it. You could maybe support one house with an electric car or two house, whatever. That shit ain't gonna work. Bottom line, if I had an electric car, I'd have a generator in the trunk.
Yeah. Because that's what you need.
Yeah.
And you're running gas.
And then guess what? Up here, you got winter time. How you gonna heat that son of a bitch?
Yeah. People
You
don't
gotta
think
turn
about
on
that.
the electric
And we're not even
heater.
talking about Alaska. We're talking about New Jersey, Pennsylvania, East Coast, Montana, places where you can die in your car if you got to sit there.
You turn on your electric heater and see how long that battery lasts.
It's crazy, man. But see,
It's
that's the craziness
ridiculous.
that's happening in this country right now, and people don't ask questions. They don't ask questions critically about, like, if you do this, what will be the repercussions of what I do now? And they don't ask that because they automatically think, oh, it's going to be okay. You know what? It might not be okay. And what are you going to do if it's not okay?
Well, you know what? I would like to have an electric vehicle
Yeah.
because if the price of petroleum products I can make my own electricity with wind-powered generators and solar panels and all that sort of thing. If I had to, I could make my own electricity at my house. I would be off the grid to do it, but there is a way. If I had an electric vehicle and the foo-foo hit the fan and I had to go someplace, it might take me a few days to charge that son of a bitch up, but I could jump in my EV and go where I need to go with a little pre-planning. I like the idea of having maybe a hybrid because, I'm convinced that at some point the infrastructure is going to collapse. And
Well, it's
as far as
collapsing. It's collapsing right now.
And like the global marketplace, it will never be what it was before COVID. All that's breaking down.
Yeah.
And you talked about U.S. dollar not being reserve. I think it's still the reserve. I beg to differ with you on that. It is still the reserve currency, but it's under attack and it's crumbling around the edges. The BRIC nations are already accepting other forms of payment for their products, mainly oil and whatnot, other than the U.S. dollar. And the fact that the U.S. dollar was, once we lost the gold backing, Nixon pulled the gold backing from the U.S. dollar, which was only in name only back when he did it.
And it was only supposed to be for what, 1-2 years at the most. And then we just kept on going with that because that enabled the government to keep on spending and making itself bigger and bigger and bigger and flipping the pyramid. The pyramid was, the bottom of the pyramid was small businesses, private ownership, people making money and wealth. And then by the late 60s, early 70s, they flipped it over, and now you have big government on top, and it's being supported by a small point of small business, and even the corporations are never going to be able to support that kind of weight.
Well,
But that's why they're tied together now, is the government and the
theory
corporations.
going back towards the end of World War II, Bretton Woods, was that the U.S., since we were the main power of the Allies during World War II, and we had the strongest currency and strongest economy, all trade, worldwide trade, so international commerce would be denominated in U.S. dollars because, well, it's easier to handle than gold and whatnot. So then, but it would be backed in gold.
Yeah.
And people were theoretically able to take that U.S. currency, which was fiat currency issued by the Federal Reserve.
Yeah.
Not even real fucking money.
Yeah.
Federal Reserve notes, not dollars. According to the Constitution, our money's supposed to be gold, silver.
And that's it.
But anyway, then you're supposed to theoretically be able to cash those dollars in for gold.
Yeah.
Well, when Nixon pulled us off that standard,
Yeah.
because what was happening, these foreign countries, they saw what we were doing with our dollars. We were inflating their dollars. They had bought our products, our bonds, our products with money that was worth a certain amount, and they had absorbed some of our debt, denominated at dollars at that particular time. Then a couple of years later, those dollars weren't worth as much because of inflation. So they said, well, shit, we better take our dollars and go repatriate our gold.
Yeah.
Well, they started doing that, and then right away they realized our guys, Nixon and his cohorts, and the various bankers involved in this goddamn money wheel they had going, decided, well, they realized we don't have enough gold to cover this. This Ponzi scheme is coming down, so we will not do that anymore. You cannot take your dollars and get your gold back.
Yeah, France was
we'll
coming
give
here
you more
to get all the
gold.
gold.
I mean, we'll give you more dollars,
Yeah.
but you can't get your gold back.
Yeah.
So,
De Gaulle was the one that called us on it, and because he saw we were spending all this money in Vietnam and wasting it, and it was just like, yeah, we want our gold now.
I mean, that
And sent the
particular
ships.
thing, it's caused a lot of wars down through history.
Yeah.
People, nations reneging on their debt and canceling their war debts, and that's one of the reasons that.
Well, look at what's happening. I mean, because you've lived long enough on this planet to see history, and that's one of the reasons I always listen to what you're talking about. You know, and what were you doing in the Army? Were you in the 82nd, or who were you with?
Yeah, I went in '63 in June 17, '63. I turned 17 on June the 4th. So 2 weeks after I turned.
And then you were in Dominican Republic. I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2 weeks after I turned 17, I joined the Army, and then, but I was on the airborne track. I took airborne basic.
Okay. Not the 101st, 82nd, or which one?
I ended up in the 82nd. So I went through the whole damn drill and got my wings down at Fort Benning, and they sent me to the 80 Deuce up at Fort Bragg, North Carolina.
And your MOS was what, infantry, or is it?
No, I wanted infantry. I tried my damnedest to get transferred to infantry. I put in what was known as a 1049 numerous times, but they wouldn't let me out of this aviation battalion I was in. It was an aviation.
Oh, wow.
We had
So at that time it was the new choppers
about
then.
120 aircraft in that aviation battalion.
What were they?
UH-1Bs.
They just come out, the Bs.
And then the H model, H-13 H models. And then later we went to the UH-1Ds.
Yep.
And then S model 13s, H-13s. And then we had a few bird dogs, a few otters. And then we had this one called a caribou, which was a badass airplane.
You had otters? Oh, nice. Nice.
A few. Just a very
I've flown
few.
the turbine otter.
Very few fixed wing aircraft in that outfit. But that caribou, I don't know if you're familiar.
Yeah,
with that
I'd love to fly one.
side-by-side
But
seating,
you can't find them hardly, you know.
turbojet.
Yeah.
But we got rid of those right after I got there. I think the Air Force was having heartburn with the Army flying those
bigger planes?
because it was infringing upon their mission. But I remember right before I got there, one of the mechanics in my company the aircraft was in the hangar. He stepped into the cockpit, and to help himself into the cockpit, there was
Jesus.
a red handle down there. He pulled that handle, it ejected his ass right out through the roof. Needless to say, it killed him deader than a doornail.
Splatted him. Yeah.
So, that was one of the first things he told me when I got there. Don't pull the red handle.
Don't pull anything, yeah.
So, anyway, we didn't keep those for very long, but we had the Hueys. And when I first got there, it was on-the-job training for the first 6 months. And, I never did want to be a mechanic. I joined the Army to be a soldier.
Yeah.
And I wanted infantry. And I was pissed off because they were trying to make me into an aircraft mechanic. I didn't want anything to do with that shit. I'm not a friggin' mechanic. I mean, nothing against mechanics, but that's not what I joined the Army for. Yeah. I mean, I was young, dumb, full of cum. I went like eyeball to eyeball contact and blow that motherfucker away.
Yeah.
That was the kind of shit I was into.
Yeah.
So after 6 months, they sent me to Fort Eustis for aircraft rotor and propeller repair course. So I was 3 months up there at Fort Eustis that summer, a beautiful summer of 1964. I was at Buckrow Beach every night.
Oh, wow.
boogalooing my ass off. I'd get back to the barracks 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, and I'd have to turn to for reveille, and I'd drink Coca-Cola after Coca-Cola trying to stay awake.
Oh yeah.
And swear up and down I wasn't going to the beach again that night.
Yeah.
Then somehow or another, after class was over, I'd get this second wind. All of a sudden I'd be feeling good. And yeah, let's head to Buckrow again.
Oh wow.
And so we, I had some buddies. I had this one buddy had a '63 Buick LeSabre. I can't remember.
LeSabre.
A really nice Buick.
Yeah.
Convertible.
Oh wow.
We all load up in that sumbitch and we go to Buckrow Beach. It was close, and back then it was party central. They had a pavilion, good music, dancing, plenty of girls and everything. Young man's dream. So anyway, I came back to the company after I finished that rotor and propeller repair course. I never touched another aircraft to repair it after that.
Huh.
They put me in aircraft tech supply. And I think the reason was I had a military driver's license. They forced me one day to go and get a military driver's license. They said, you go down there and get your driver's license. So I got down, they had me driving M151 Jeep. Okay, here you go. Well, we'll just go ahead and give you a 2.5 and 5-ton truck at the same time. I'd never driven a freaking 5-ton truck. But anyway, they gave me this license. And so I was duty driver one day right after I came back, and they put the company supply officer, he was a warrant, W4 pilot, already done 2 tours, really cool, squared away guy. And we're driving around in my M151. He was looking for some parts. He wanted a carpet. He wanted 8x10 green carpet for the battalion commander's office. We're driving around. And he said, well, you know where I can get one? We had been on some kind of a parts mission, and when I took him back, he asked me if I knew where I can get one. I said, yeah, maybe. I went over to the goddamn 3rd Army Post Chaplain's office and asked this damn Spec 4 orderly if he knew where there was one. I thought, these guys, they know about carpets and shit. I mean, he's a chaplain. Who else would know about stuff like that? He said, yeah, there's one under the chaplain's desk in there. And I said, well, I need it. And he said, well, what do you got? And I said, well, what do you want? And I think I traded him a couple of those camouflage poncho liners and set of aviation glasses and maybe one of those flight jackets. We all this shit in aircraft tech supply, trading material. Because if you really wanted a part or a piece or whatever you needed, piece of equipment, you send it through chain to get your part. It might be months. So you throw some of this stuff in the back of your Jeep and you go to these places like Special Forces, their aviation battalion. They had a lot of good parts. I used to trade with those guys all the time. And
which group was that one? Do you remember? Or do you remember what Special Forces group that was?
Well, that was Smoke Bomb Hill. That's a training center there at Cork Graham.
At Bragg, yeah.
So and then all the various other anybody that had aircraft might have aircraft parts. So that's how we got parts when we needed them. And then a little short aside here, the MPs used to stop you every now and then and do a spot check on your vehicle. Well, my little M151, I never even took it to the motor pool. They let me keep it there at the aircraft hangar at Tech Supply. So my damn M151, a little Jeep, by the way, I had it all customized. I had a little white pinstripe around the rim.
Oh, man.
It was a tricked out little fucking unit. I like that little M151. So one day, they needed a fuel control unit for a UH-1B, and I'd written up the requisition and stamped EDP, emergency demand for parts on it. And I'm blowing over by main post, and these MPs pull me over. And I said, well, look, I've got this EDP. I got to get this damn fuel control unit for General, whatever the fuck his name was, that was in command of the 82nd at the time, for his chopper. He wants to go flying today, and I got to get this part. And they said, and away I went. I said, shit, that was slick as hell, man. So every day when I would leave the aircraft hangar, I'd type myself out a requisition and stamp that. I had a clipboard. If I ever got stopped, I'd say, look, that's an EDP.
Wow.
I had the friggin' Army working for me, man. So I was like a company scrounge artist. Anytime they needed anything, back to that carpet.
Yeah.
I got that carpet. I rolled it up. I put it in my Jeep. I went, took back, and gave it to this warrant officer. I went up and said, "What do you want me to do with this carpet?" And he said, "You found one?" I said, "Yes, sir. I found one."
Oh.
He said, "Well, take it over to the battalion commander's office." So I took it over there, and then just a very few weeks later, the allocations came down for Spec 4. I was a PFC at the time. My name was on that allocation.
Wow.
I got Spec 4 a fucking year before any of my cohorts. There's a bunch of us got to the company at the same time.
Yeah.
I beat them, all of them, by about a year getting Spec 4 because I snagged that friggin' carpet. And then they assigned me off the floor. I wasn't mechanicking anymore. They put me in aircraft tech supply. That's how I got that job. And, you know, tech supply, you know, working out. The thing about it is, I was a free man.
Yeah.
I was able to drive that Jeep. I could create my own missions.
Yeah.
You know, I could go out and snag parts. They always needed parts for this or that, whatever.
Yeah.
And sometimes they need to get rid of parts.
Yeah.
Like IG inspection. We go through this, do this inventory. We got a big stack of parts that no paperwork on, the obsolete shit that's for helicopters. We went from the H to the D models to the H models. All those parts are obsolete. We're going to turn those some bitches in. You know how much paperwork is involved in turning in parts?
Yeah.
But come the IG inspection, if they find obsolete parts
Yeah.
on your shelves, that's a bad gig.
Wow.
So they told me, Vernon,
Yeah.
or Adkison, they call me by my last name.
Yeah.
We need to make these parts disappear.
Yeah.
So I got a couple of the grunts. We load up a deuce and a half, took them out in the woods, dug a hole and buried those friggin' parts, which came in handy later. Because later on I got busted for speeding in a deuce and a half. And they took me all the way down from E4, and my allocation had already been cut for E5, although no, it didn't get down to me. I was still wearing Spec 4 stripes, or not stripes, but the insignia, that stupid little fucking, I hate
Eagle
that
and
goddamn,
the-
yeah, that's stupid Spec 4 shit.
Yeah.
But anyway, they took me from E4 down to E1, and I was getting short.
Yeah.
If I'd have gotten out as an E1, that would have been a general discharge.
Ugh.
So I fought them. It was a field grade Article 15. They asked me, "You want a court martial on Article 15 for speeding in this deuce and a half going through Smoke Bomb Hill?" Damn general there, his daughter evidently got killed by his speed.
Oh yeah, that was that one.
And so they really clamped down on the speed limit going through Smoke Bomb. I think it was 25 or something like that. Anyway, you know, I thought, well, they'll take me down one grade. I'm getting out here in a few months anyway. Fucking mama out of this man's army.
Huh.
Well, he took me down all the way. So I finished up. I went down the stairs in our 3-story barracks we lived in. There's a phone booth down there. I picked up the phone. I called Lyndon Johnson. They wouldn't let me talk to Lyndon. So then I called, I ended up talking to, then I called Tom Thurmond, who was a senator from South Carolina.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah.
They wouldn't let me talk to Storm either.
Huh?
Then I called Mendel Rivers. He was the chairman of the House Armed Services Committee, and he was from South Carolina.
Yeah.
They let me talk to Mendel Rivers.
Really?
And I told him what had happened.
Uh-huh.
And he said, "Well, you tell your mother to call that post chaplain every day, or the division chaplain.
Yeah.
Every day she's to call him. And then what you do is you do what they tell you to do. They'd find me 2/3 of my pay and restricted me to post for 90 days.
Yeah.
And took all my stripes and shit. And so he said, in the meantime, you do what you got to do, and I'll put my man, Jack somebody, I can't remember his name now.
Huh?
Jack somebody. He is my Pentagon liaison officer, so we'll work on it up here, and we'll get you your stripes back.
Wow.
Sure and shit, they did.
No shit.
But I was busted. I was busted and disgusted. I was like,
So how
I tell you
long
what,
did it take for you to get your stripes back?
I was so some kind of pissed off about
Yeah.
that. I wrote an appeal. You know, I've been here in this man's army and getting ready. You guys are going to send me out under a general discharge and blah, blah, blah. I wrote an appeal. I still got it in my files and all, I think.
Good.
Pretty sure I do.
Yeah.
But one of the jobs I had was I had to clean up battalion headquarters every night.
Yeah.
So my little revenge was that motherfucker that busted me.
Yeah.
The captain's name was the company commander was DeWeese. He was the one that actually zapped my ass. But the colonel that was in charge of our battalion there, he had this prop glass cup on his desk, you know, all the insignias, the jumpers, all this shit. And that's what he'd drink his coffee out of in the morning. So when I was cleaning up, I'd always take his cup in there and I would piss in it. And then I would rub my dick around with it. And then I'd pour it out and I'd put it up there on the desk. And that's and there were a few other.
Is he still alive? He's got to be dead by now.
He
got killed in Vietnam. What's that?
He was probably liking that. Fucking asshole. But I got my shit back. I got E4 back. I didn't get E5.
Oh man.
But by then I decided I was getting out. But up until then.
But you were on the way to become an officer, right?
I was on track to be a lifer.
Yeah.
That's what I intended to do. I wanted to get out of that aviation battalion, back in the industry. I put in an application to OCA.
Back in the infantry.
Yeah. Industry. I'd gotten it approved all the way up through 3rd Army, and it had gone to Department of Defense, and they sent it back to me because I'd signed Vernon D. Adkison instead of Vernon Douglas Adkison. So I had to do all that shit over again.
Oh, yeah.
But then when they gave me my re-up talk, re-up and buy a brand new Ford, take a Bertha 6, you get enough money to buy it.
And Vietnam was cooking up by this time,
yeah,
right?
It was starting to crank up by then. And I wanted to go to Nam.
Yeah.
I'd been down to the Dominican Republic. That's a little bit of a different story. Well, let me segue back to that. I was down to Dom Rep, and we went down there in 62. And I think we went in March, and I came back in June. Because after 3 months, because of some things that happened down there, I decided I wanted to go to Vietnam.
Yeah.
I talked a couple of my buddies into doing the same thing. He sent us back to Fort Bragg to clear post prior to shipping out. And so during that time, I took a 30-day leave prior to clearing post. And I was going to have to extend because by that time I did not have a full, I think the tour of duty was either 12 or 13 months over there. I was into that already. I mean, my termination day, I was June. That was when I was getting out of the Army. This was already past June, so I didn't have a full 12 or 13 months. I only had like 11 or 12 months. So I was going to have to extend my tour of duty by a year so that I could go to Nam, and I was going to do that. But prior to that, I took a 30-day leave, and my old man had gotten me a new Volkswagen. It was anyway. I was headed to Virginia Beach on leave. I'd been down at my folks' house in Columbia, South Carolina, and I was traveling up to Virginia Beach, and I stopped by Fort Bragg to pick up a couple of my buddies. One of whom was going to Nam with me. I talked 2 other guys into doing the same thing. Melvin Dickerson was his name, and the other guy was Michael Thomas, I think.
And they did go to Vietnam.
They went.
Yeah.
But we're blowing up the highway, got up there close to Rocky Mount, North Carolina.
Yeah.
Getting late. I remember Melvin said, "Vernon, you look like you're sleeping. Why don't you let me drive for a while?" I said, "Sure, Melvin. Why don't you drive for a while? I'm sleeping over there in the passenger seat, and this other guy, his name was I'll think of his name here in a minute. So Wilma McClellan.
Huh?
I mean, the only guy I ever met named Wilma.
Wilma? The guy's name?
Wilma. Yeah.
Whoa.
But, a boy named Sue, he was a tough motherfucker. I guess
That strengthened him.
But he was a cool good dude.
Yeah.
So we're blowing down the highway and I'm sleeping. Next thing you know, I woke up and there were all these lights and goddamn flashing lights and all this. It's in the wee hours of the morning. And I'm laying there on the grass and I'm all busted up. I got a broken leg, my knees all jacked out of shape, broke my arm way up here, and multiple contusions, abrasions. Thank God it was a Volkswagen.
Jesus.
Because they're designed so if you hit the glass with your head, it'll pop out.
Yeah.
And there's a big cushion up front. There's no engine up there.
Yeah.
So we hit a telephone pole and wrapped that damn bumper all the way around.
And your buddy was driving.
Yeah, he was driving. He went to sleep. So I'm laying there on the grass and I'm hurting like a son of a bitch. And Wilma, he had an hairline fracture in his pelvic bone, and he's walking around saying, "Oh, motherfucker, goddamn, he was just pissing and moaning and making a big show out of it. And you got all these cops and ambulance attendants and damn everybody and his brother out there, 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, in this lady's front yard. And she's out there in her house coat. And she said, "Young man, you ought to be ashamed of yourself talking like that." And Wilma said, "Oh, fuck you, you old bitch."
Jesus. And he was just as broken up as you were.
And for some reason, I thought that was the funniest thing I ever heard in my life. I started laughing. I couldn't quit laughing. And all my bones, I could feel them
Jesus.
the more I laughed, these bones are like moving around like this. And it just really hurt to laugh.
Yeah.
It was so goddamn funny, I couldn't stop. So anyway, they finally took us to the hospital at Rocky.
So who got messed up the most? You and
me.
You did.
Me.
Well, in the back seat.
No, I was in the passenger seat.
Huh.
Melvin didn't get hurt that bad. The other guy, he had a hairline fracture in his pelvic bone. But they put us, I was in hospital with 3 days at Rocky Mountain. Then they took us to Womack Army Hospital at Fort Bragg. And I spent the next 3 months there.
Jeez.
I had to go through convalescence. They won't send you back to your outfit if you're not fit for duty, if you can't even be on profile. Melvin got out pretty quick. Wilma was there for a little while, and then they finally let him out. And then, by the time I got out of the hospital, I was getting pretty short. I was, I only had like 6 or 8 months, something like that, left to do in the Army.
Yeah.
And so I finally got back to my company, and I ran afoul of this one sergeant because I'd gone. In the hospital, you could get a convalescent leave. There was this red-haired colonel that come around, doctor that would do grand rounds every Thursday. And I had this buddy. I had 2, Killer Kundinger and the Greek. And we decided that we wanted to go down to Puerto Rico. I'd been down there on R&R one time already. Yeah. When I was in the Dom Rep, they sent me over for 3 days R&R and Puerto Rico. And I had the time of my life. I love that place. Yeah. So we decided we're going to ask the colonel for a convalescent leave. So grand rounds, come out time, I go in the room and I ask him, ask me, "How you doing?" I said, "I'm doing good, pretty good, pretty good." And I said, "Well, how about a convalescent leave?" And he said, "Well, I'll tell you what, give me 3 push-ups." So I dropped down and essentially did 1-arm push-ups because this arm was fucked up. Yeah. And I cranked him out. He said, "Yeah, okay, good to go." Jeez. And then right behind me was Kundinger. He busted up. He'd been in an accident almost the same as mine, except he was in a little Triumph Spitfire thing. Jeez. His face went through the windshield and they just cut him. It busted up his knee about the same place as me. And he'd been in and out of the hospital for a year or 2. Yeah. And so he goes in behind me and the colonel says, "Okay, you want to go on convalescent leave? Give me 3 deep knee bends." So he knocked out 1, and he knocked out 2, and he's going for the 3rd one, and I heard this crack, and he hit the deck, he rolled around in agony. We broke that fucking knee. So he didn't get to go, but I did. And I got, at that time I think I got, I can't remember, I think I might have got 2 weeks down there. Dang. But I stayed at the San Geronimo Hilton, and I was hanging out at the 7A room, and there was a gambling casino there. And I met this girl named, I can't remember her name right now, something Azul. Her dad was some kind of diplomat from friggin' Iraq. Really? She called up my room looking for somebody. Well, that person wasn't there, but I chatted her up and met her down at the 7A room. I ended up hanging out with that gorgeous chick from Iraq. Wow. Hanging out by the pool and and here I was, an E4 in the Army. I was high rolling at the San Geronimo Hilton. I don't know if that hotel is still there or not, but I got fond memories of that place. So anyway, I forgot where I kind of got segued off of this thing, tell you about that.
So you got out of the Army then, like just a few months later?
And then, I made up my mind I was going to get out. But, I mean, they called me in for my re-up talk, and they said, well, if you take a Versa 6, we will expunge your record. We'll take that goddamn Article 15 off your record. Your OCS application has been approved. We'll continue with that. You can go to OCS, or you can go to Vietnam, because I had a 1049 in Vietnam also, and I couldn't make up my mind which way I wanted to go.
Oh, shoot.
And then,
so you could have gone straight into OCS right there.
And then we will give this re-enlistment bonus. And a lot of guys were taking that re-up points and buying new cars. One guy bought a goddamn Chevelle 396 with a hearse 4 on the floor. Another guy bought a goddamn Oldsmobile 442, I think it was. And guys are buying really hot cars, because that's what young guys in the paratroopers like. They like hot cars.
Exactly.
Girls like hot cars.
Yeah.
So, but then, by then, I turned against the Army with getting busted.
Yeah.
And then, even when I was in the E1, for some reason, they didn't kick me out of my room. I don't know why they didn't kick me out of my room. I couldn't figure that one out. But I was sharing a room with this guy named Halson. And they came and told us that we had to put these signs on our walls, all the walls, with an arrow pointing towards the door. Only 4 walls. One of them got a door. And I'm sitting there in my bunk, and I'm looking at this arrow pointing, to the emergency exit. I'm saying, if this man's Army doesn't think that I got enough sense to find that fucking door in an emergency, I don't want anything to do with you. I'm getting the hell out of here. That was the final straw. That sign pointing in my little room, pointing towards the door and telling me that's the way to go to get out of here. Fuck you. If you don't have any more respect for my brains than that, I don't need to be here. So, anyway, I told that, by then I had a really bad attitude. I told that re-up sergeant, here's what I can do with that $6,000 or whatever it was they were going to give me. I said, I can catch the Vomit Comet in the Fayetteville every night for the next 6 years. Have myself 3 beers and then hitchhike back to post. That's what that money will buy me. The Vomit Comet was a bus that went to Fayetteville. They call it the Vomit Comet because coming back, lugouts would puke on the floor, and it would, going up the hill, it would roll towards the back. It would roll towards the front. I was on that thing one day, and sitting there, and a couple of guys up here, and the guy on the inside, he had to puke. Well, he thought the window was down. It wasn't. It splattered all over. The guy sitting next to him just proceeded to beat the shit out of him, and a couple other guys out there just pounded that guy right into the floor, beat the flannel shit out of it, including the vomit. But anyway, I said, no, I'm getting out. I'm done with this man's Army. So I just rode it on out for a few more months. And
so how'd you find out about the Merchant Marine?
Well, I was hitchhiking over to San Francisco because the hippies were all the rage. The long hair and all these good-looking hippie chicks. They were anti-war. And by then, I turned against the war. I mean, I was pretty much a warmonger in my early days. I thought we're doing the right thing out there, defending the country and democracy and all this shit. But a lot of my friends were over there already because we're in the aviation battalion. Our guys were getting sent over to the 1st Air Cavalry because it was all helicopters. And they came and actively recruited us to go to flight school. Not only one guy ever decided that they wanted to go to helicopter school because we were already getting the word that they're getting shot down like sitting duck. Boom. As soon as they came up with those sounds, heat-seeking sounds, man, you didn't want to be flying around that fucking helicopter. The next thing you know, you got a missile flying right up your exhaust pipe. So they were getting shot down. It was crazy. And they had tested the air mobile concept there on Operation Swift Strike 1, 2, and 3, I think it was. I got in on a couple of those big, huge field problems against the 11th Air Assault Division out of Fort Benning, I believe it was. And it was an experimental thing to test out the air mobile concept. It didn't work. We beat them. We beat the crap out of them because we could see where the troop concentrations were. Easy to knock them out of the sky. Our guys, one of the Booney Rat outfits, the 503rd, whoever, one of them, 317, whichever, one of the outfits, they loaded up in Jeeps and drove through their lines and captured 13 stars, commander of the overall
Yeah.
division, his assistant, their
During the war
division
games.
commander
Yeah.
during the field problem,
Yeah.
and drove them right through the lines, and just we destroyed the air mobile concept.
Huh.
But they decided, well, we're going to take you to Vietnam anyway because we're going to make money with this shit.
Exactly.
These helicopters, we can sell these helicopters, and
Jeez.
we're going to make money with this.
That tells
So-
you about war.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
they
making money.
send these helicopters over there, and you know, and it was working pretty good. Even though there were cases where they got shot down with crossbows. You know, and you hit one of those rotor blades with any kind of gunfire, it's like
Yeah.
it's shaking itself apart. So they changed the 11th Air Assault Division. They changed it, and it became the 1st Air Cavalry Division. They were set up in An Khe in Vietnam.
Oh yeah.
And so, anyway, by the time I was getting short, my buddies, including those two guys I
Yeah.
talked into going, Melvin Dickerson and Michael Richards. Anyway, those two guys were writing me letters about how fucked up things were.
Wow.
Like, if you're on motor pool guard and somebody shoots at you, you can't shoot back. You
Yeah.
got to call battalion
Lieutenant
headquarters and
Johnson.
have permission
Yeah.
to fire back. They only give you one bullet for your rifle. What kind of damn war is that? That ain't any kind of war that I'm gonna fight.
Yeah.
You know, you want to go in there and let's do this thing right.
Yeah.
You know, wipe their silly asses out and, well, silly, whatever. Wipe their asses out and get on about your business. I'm all in. But I'm not going over there and be cannon fodder for anyone.
Yeah.
Fuck you, it ain't gonna happen.
Yeah.
So by then I turned to anti-war. And so I got out, I'm heading to San Francisco hitchhiking. Stopped by down at Fort Bend to see my girlfriend. That's another story. But as I'm hitchhiking, I got over, caught a ride with this guy. We get over to Jackson, Mississippi. He's turning left to go down to New Orleans.
Huh.
And I'm keeping on going. It was on 90, I think. I was before Highway 10, I believe.
Huh.
But he said, well, why don't you just come on down to New Orleans with me, and you can check her out on the waterfront and see if you can hitchhike to San Francisco or the West Coast on the ship.
Yeah.
I said, shit, that sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
He said, and my aunt, she's got a boarding house where you can stay. She's an old French lady.
Cool.
She and I became good friends for a long time. She and her and her sister were elderly ladies, but really high
Good
class
people.
girls. So I went on down there with him. I stayed at his aunt's boarding house for a couple of weeks. And she treated me really good. She's a real sweetheart of an older lady. And her and her sister owned this bar called the Old Loyalty Bar on Rampart Street.
Huh.
That some bitch have been open non-stop since back in the 30s. They never
Wow.
locked the doors.
Wow.
People used to go there for hurricanes.
Huh.
They'd have hurricane parties.
Oh,
Back
yeah.
then they had like nickel beer, cold beer. You could sit there and drink this ice cold beer. Stone walls. A hurricane ain't gonna blow that son of a bitch down. People go there for a hurricane. Anytime there's a hurricane, that place was packed. So the Old Loyalty Bar, those old two old birds own that place. Really classy gals. So I couldn't find a ship. And I looked at all the. There was one street where all the foreign sailor bars were, and a lot of the barkeepers also did light duty as shipping agents. I mean, you could go in there and see bartenders or the owners about catching the ship. And since I was an American, it was really hard to do, and I didn't have any papers. But during that process, I found out about the Seafarers International Union school,
Yeah.
the Harry Lundenberg School of Seamanship. I went over there and asked them about, signing up with all that, and they said, yeah, you can do that. We'll sign you up. But you got to get a haircut. And I'd already,
Growing up. Yeah.
one of the things is you got to get a haircut before you come here. My hair wasn't that long. I just gotten out of the Army.
Yeah.
But that was one of the things, and I promised myself I wasn't going to ever get a haircut again. I'm done with all these haircuts. And I'm never going to run again because I was tired of jogging.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So the only time I'm going to run, somebody's after me with a freaking gun. So I said, okay, thanks very much, but no. And I ended up hitchhiking on out to San Francisco.
Oh, wow.
And I got there, I can't remember, 66 or 67 was the summer of love. One of those years was. But it was ripping and tearing with all the hippies and all.
Yeah.
And but I had not gotten hippified. I'd never done any house. I'd never smoked any dope.
Yeah.
Hadn't done any of that shit. So I stayed out there for a week or two, and then I ended up hitchhiking back to New Orleans, and I checked into that school. I just bit the
gotcha.
bullet. I'll get a haircut or whatever. So I stayed there. They kept me in that school for 45 days. And a lot of the guys, they were cycling through after 2 weeks, 18 days, whatever, because a lot of ships going to Nam.
Yeah.
But right after I got there, they made me what they call the night pusher. I was the guy that maintained law and order amongst all the little goddamn juvenile delinquents they had in the school. They probably had 25 or 30 of them. It was like a little slave labor force that and put them on the bus every day there at Leaf Circle over to Jackson Avenue to the Union Hall.
Yeah.
They cleaned the place up, polished the brass, served the food in the cafeteria to the union members, and they give you $2 a week and a carton of cigarettes. That's what they gave you.
Jeez.
So I'm there for like, and my job was to do bed check every night, make sure the lights out at 10 o'clock, lock the door, nobody came or went after that. And you know, time is going by and time is going by, and all these guys are shipping out and shipping out and shipping out, and I'm not shipping out. And then one of my buddies, Clay Weber was his name, he said, him and Tab Chance had come in from South Carolina, from Aiken, South Carolina, we'd buddied up. And Clay said, you know, Vernon, the reason you're not shipping out is because you're doing too good of a job. You're going to have stuff.
Oh, yeah.
You know, they'll keep you here forever.
Yeah.
You know, I said, you're right. We got 4 guys in from Houston. Right after that, they'd come there by court order. It's either go join the army or ship out or go to prison.
Yeah.
So they sent them in from Houston to the Siemens town. The Siemens townhouse is what they call that building, right there by Lee Circle on St. Charles Boulevard. And so about the first or second night they were there, 2 of them missed bed check. I locked the door. I went up, did bed check, and then later on I heard some noise up there, and I went back up there, and 2 of them were in the latrine smoking cigarettes and shooting the shit. And I said, okay, you assholes, I told you, you assholes need to get in bed. One of them gave me some back talk. I smooth knocked his ass out, and then the other one got froggy, and I took his ass down, and I said, all right, now you get your ass up and put that sorry son of a bitch in bed, and don't either one of you make a move. You stay your asses in bed.
Yeah.
Okay, so we took care of that little problem. I went downstairs. The other 2 are pounding on the door. Okay, I got this big bar across the door, and I told them, you guys missed bed check, you're out here. Go someplace else. Oh, no, Vernon, please, we'll do anything you want. I said, okay. I'll tell you what, you go in there and clean that galley up until I'm satisfied, and I'll let you back in. So I let them in. They went in there cleaning up the galley, and after a while, I heard the big double swinging doors slam open, and this guy said, what the fuck this shit? I'm not cleaning this damn galley. And I was sitting over here in the front lobby, and there's over on the other side, and there's a hallway going down. And I jumped up from behind my desk, and I ran down there, and just as I was turning that corner, full speed ahead, this guy's walking down the hallway towards me, and I hit him, and I swear I knocked his ass. He went airborne from where I hit him all the way over to the wall, probably as far as that window was. He went flying through the air. The other guy was just coming through the door. When he went flying back, boom, he hit the deck. And I made him pick that guy up, and I took him over to the front door, and I was trying to shove him out the front door, but the door opened towards the inside. I kept banging him. Finally, I said, open that goddamn door. So he opened the door, and I threw that asshole out, and I ran him out, the other guy out too. So next morning, I get a call from Don Collins, the guy that ran the training program, and he was in charge of the trainees over at the Union Hall. Big old faggot, motherfucker. So anyway, I had to go over there, and I went up to his office, and he came over the desk, and he thumping me on the, what do you mean beating these boys up, and you know, and blah, blah, blah. And I told him I was doing exactly what I was supposed to do. That's what the guy I worked for, whose name was Haywire Warren, he was an old union organizer from way back. He was in charge of the townhouse, and nobody messed with Haywire. He was a classy old guy, kind of short in stature and thin, but really a cool dude. And he told me, you know, you do what you have to do to maintain law and order, and I'll back you up. So Colin said, you go there and you get your gear and you get the fuck out of here, you're done. So I went back to the townhouse, I'm packing up my gear, and Warren showed up. I can't remember his first name. We call him Haywire. And they also called him Judge because they had a lot of influence with politicians there. He said, hey, Vernon, what are you doing? I said, well, Don kicked me out of school. I'm out of here. He said, what for? And I said, because those 4 assholes that came up from Houston, I had to belay their asses last night. One of them had black eyes out the ear.
Oh, man.
He said, well, that's what I told you to do. He said, don't you worry about this. I'll take care of this.
Mm-hmm.
He went over to the damn Union Hall, and the guys, he told me he went up those stairs 3 at a time, went in there and came over the desk after Don Collins.
Yeah.
He said, Vernon's my man. You don't fuck with my man.
Yeah.
You know? And then he went over to the dispatcher's office and said, give me a shipping card for Atkinson.
Yeah.
And no, he went back to the friggin', he told me, go over there and I got a shipping card for you. I get the card, it's for a messman on the Del Sud. And the guys are saying, no, that's a great job. You get to go ashore, you get to hang out with the female passengers. That's a great job. I said, no, I ain't going to be a goddamn messman. You get stuck in the steward's department, you never get out. I'm going to be in the deck department.
Yeah.
So I go back over there, I'm packing my gear. Warren shows up, what's going on now? And they said, they gave me a messman job on the Del Sud. He said, give me that fucking card. Went back over to the Union Hall, and about a little while later, he came back and he had a shipping card as an ordinary seaman on the Wild Ranger.
Oh, wow. That's your first ship?
Yeah, that was my first ship.
Ah!
So
Okay, so that's where the name comes
I
from.
was going to Vietnam.
Dang.
And
And that's the one you went to Vietnam on? Yeah. No kidding. Wow.
So I was on that ship for 4 months, and what a ship that was. It was just literal, I mean, a ship of fools like you never saw.
The Wild Ranger.
I mean,
the original Wild Ranger.
Yeah, drunk, dope addicts, criminals, you name it. Just a hodgepodge of misfits and miscreants like you wouldn't believe, from the captain on down. Never saw the captain. He stayed knocked out drunk just about all the time.
So what'd you take out to Vietnam? What did you ship to Vietnam?
Mostly PX goods.
Oh, okay.
Beer, we had one hatch that was completely full of beer. That was the one, number 3 hatch, which was right in front of the house. We figured out how to get into that hatch. Go all the way down the midship house, freighter, go all the way down into the reefer flats. And there was a door down there that you could get into. You weren't supposed to do it. It wasn't a real door. It was like, goddamn, I don't even know what you'd call it. But we disassembled this fucking thing, and we got into that number 3 hatch, and we had beer out the wazoo, man. We were drinking PX beer, commissary beer. But beer was important to the troops over there. So we had one hatch completely full of beer, and the rest of it was PX shit.
And that is a good time to cut. We now know where the origins of the name the Wild Ranger comes from. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's where it came from.
We're going to cut now. We'll be back. We'll talk to you later. Be sure, like and subscribe. Every time you hit a thumbs up, that's good. Gets more people coming to the channel. More people coming to the channel, we can bring more content for you. So subscribe. Tell your friends about the channel. More content coming. I think you're going to be happy. Talking about a bunch of things. This is 2 channels. It's Cork's Critical Thinking Corner, which is Cork Graham on YouTube, and then it's also being broadcast on 5 Acres and a Moose, which is my homesteading, my prepping channel. If you aren't there, you better get there. We'll see you on the next slide. Cheers.
Yeah, hey, thanks.
Yeah,
Kind of enjoyed it, man. Some of that stuff I haven't thought of. And
I love hearing your stories, man. So I'm glad you guys get to hear it too. So we'll talk to you later.
Hasta la vista. I'll be back.
So what do you think about that rhubarb right there? Pretty big, huh? Guess I'm going to be making some strawberry rhubarb pie and some jam. Got lots of that coming. Got some big stuff right here. It's about what? Yeah, almost 3 feet tall. Some good stalks in there. I used to have rhubarb when I was a kid in Spokane, visiting my grandparents from Southeast when we were living in Southeast Asia. But anyway, hope you enjoyed the show with Vern. Again, like, subscribe, share, and comment. Please comment below. I do answer either in the comment itself, or I comment about it because I think it's a great idea to talk about in an upcoming episode. So if you have any questions about the reality TV industry, about media, about U.S. history, I love talking U.S. history because evidently they don't like to teach it anymore. And since I experienced a lot of it personally, up close and personal, like Vietnam, Central America under Reagan, I'll definitely be talking about that pretty soon, because all the things that happened back then, it's all playing out right now. And that's why you notice I'm doing my best to have everything squared away before November, and definitely before January. I hope you're doing the same thing too. I'll pray for you. Good luck. And like we used to say when we go out on mission, hasta el otro lado. See you on the other side.